This episode was a little harder to complete than the previous ones. See, I grew up in Denver, and in December of 1979, when this episode takes place, I lived less than 5 miles from the crime scene. Of course, I was just a kid. I don't remember the story from the news or from what the adults were talking about. I do remember the place where the crime occurred. I passed right by it at least 3 times a week. One of my favorite parks was just a very short distance away. I felt sort of connected to the story as soon as I found it while researching. I didn't know the victim, but we shared space. We lived in the same community. He lived and died, and he was like a cipher. Anyway, this one really kind of got to me, and I want to let you guys know that right up front. Before I get into the story, I'm going to remind you to like and subscribe. That is how YouTube identifies this content as worth getting out to other viewers that are likely to enjoy it. And of course, thanks to all of you for joining us again. Because in December of 1979, a man named Edward J. Steinbach died in a way that no one expected, and no one has explained since. Welcome to Echoes in Communities. I'm Kim, and my co-host, or is that co-ghost, and I are going to take you back to the Colorado of my childhood. Tonight, we descend into the shadowed silence of a case that's eluded justice for over 40 years.
A corpse in a car at the bottom of an embankment. How terribly mundane. Until, of course, you find the bullet in his skull.
Exactly. This is the story of Edward Steinbach, an ordinary man on an ordinary road until someone turned his quiet night into his final one. To set the scene, Denver in 1979 was flush with oil money, aerospace contracts, and new construction. Downtown was booming, a sleek skyline, a new tech center rising from farmland. But beneath the growth was tension, racial, economic, and social. Littleton was growing too, but differently. It was a place of parks, parades, and trust. A place where a man like Ed Steinbach could live unnoticed, safe, unremarkable, but even a place like Littleton has edges.
There's something tragic about a town so sure it's immune to evil. That certainty makes the first drop of blood all the more shocking.
Edward J. Steinbach, born May 12, 1942, a man without a paper trail. We know he was 6 feet tall, 190 pounds. He had black hair and brown eyes. He was a former Army sergeant. Married, perhaps, possibly a family man, but even that isn't certain. And beyond that, he's a blank page. No criminal record, no press clippings, no known enemies. If not for the bullet, Edward Steinbach might have been forgotten altogether. He might have come from Indiana. A historical record in Newton County, Indiana, lists a family of Steinbachs, Edward Sr. and Jr., as early as 1930. It's possible our Edward had roots there, but that, like so much else, is speculation.
You know you've lived a quiet life when the only certainty you leave behind is your autopsy. It's December 10th, 1979. A Monday night. The temperature was below freezing. 26 degrees. A dusting of snow from the previous night still clung to the lawns and windshields. The air was dry and silent. The wind chill brought the cold deeper than the thermometers showed.
Holiday lights were already up in many neighborhoods, twinkling in windows, strung across eaves, wrapped around lampposts, red and green in the trees. Downtown, storefronts blinked with electric Santas, and along South Broadway, the darkened edges of town glowed with modest, quiet cheer. At 7075 South Broadway, just south of downtown Littleton, a car was found at the bottom of a steep embankment. It had rolled off the road into the dark, a single car crash, they assumed, until they opened the door. Edward Steinbach is slumped behind the wheel. There's no broken windshield, no chest trauma, no skid marks. But there is one thing, a single gunshot wound to the head. He was executed in his own car. No weapon, no witnesses, no sign of struggle. Just the night, the hillside, and silence. Imagine the arrogance it takes to kill someone and leave the scene looking like an accident. Or maybe the confidence of someone who knew no one would come looking.
Victimology is the science that helps investigators learn about a crime victim, even when that victim can no longer speak for themselves. We know Ed wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, he didn't deal drugs or gamble or run with dangerous people, at least not that anyone's admitted. Which begs the question, why him? He wasn't robbed. His wallet and personal items were left untouched. There was no forced entry to the car, no defensive wounds. Just one clean shot. Whoever killed him was efficient. Possibly close, possibly trusted. Moira, what does this kind of precision tell us about the killer?
It says one of two things: cold calculation or intimate rage. Either he was a name on a list, or his murder was someone's final betrayal. But if it were a stranger, I suspect it would have been messier. And no thief walks away without the wallet. So we look closer at the life no one ever documented.
The Littleton police treated it as homicide from the start. They interviewed neighbors, searched his home and his car. They combed that hillside for a bullet casing that never turned up. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation took interest. His Army background raised questions. Did he make enemies? Did he know too much? But no federal trail turned up either. The authorities appealed to the public. Nothing. Steinbach's name joined a growing list of unsolved murders across the state. Decades passed. In 2014, the Colorado Bureau of Investigations renewed the search for anybody with information about Edward's case and other unsolved homicides. They issued a deck of cold case playing cards. Steinbach's photo, his visage stoic and dimly lit, became the 5 of spades. As of this recording, still no answers, no arrests, no confirmed suspects, but theories, plenty of those. One, that there was a domestic dispute and it turned deadly, maybe an affair, another sort of betrayal, maybe he was in the wrong car with the wrong person. 2, that this was a professional hit, that he was targeted because of his military ties, that he knew too much or someone thought he did, that it was a mistake, possibly a message, but to who? 3, a personal vendetta, a quiet grudge, a wrong or perceived wrong with revenge served. And 4, he was the victim of mistaken identity, a man who simply looked like someone else. But none of these theories explain the precision, the disappearance of the weapon, the way he was found, car crashed, but his body intact except for the head wound. If it was personal, the killer had no need to rush. If it was professional, well, they did their job. No mess, no trail, no closure. I have a 5th theory, though I don't imagine I'm a cop or any kind of an investigator. I am a podcaster and content creator and pretty much a novice at those things. But I do remember Littleton at this time. It was mostly suburbs, but it was pushing out toward the county line in the 70s. This far south on Broadway, I wonder if it isn't possible that someone was out shooting, just target practicing or possibly protecting livestock because there were scattered little rural areas where people still had horses, goats, sheep, etc. A stray bullet, too close to the busy street. Just a theory, and of course, I don't have access to the investigation files. Edward Steinbach's death didn't spark citywide response, in part because media was all local and there was no internet. If you didn't read it in the Denver Post or the Rocky Mountain News, or see it on Channel 4, 7, or 9 News, you could have missed it. Also, the Iran hostage crisis had started on November 4th that year. The country was shocked and completely absorbed by this event. Yellow ribbons were everywhere, and the crisis and worry for the hostages consumed the country. Edward's murder didn't spark protests or national headlines. America in 1979 was a whole different world. No security cameras on stores fronting Broadway, no bystanders on the streets catching the crime or the investigation with their phones. People may have been asking about the man who went off-road and never came home, but the questions weren't very loud. If anything, those questions were whispers among neighbors, among co-workers at the water coolers in offices or in PTA meetings. Moira, what do you think this crime left behind in Littleton? What lingers?
Fear, mostly. The quiet kind. The kind that sinks in when you realize not all evil comes with warning signs and stories. told in hushed tones at backyard parties. Remember the man in the car? They never solved it. It changed how people looked at each other. It changed who and how the community trusted, and perhaps how they forgot.
Edward J. Steinbach, an invisible man in life, at least according to his paper trail, a haunting mystery and death. After 45 years, silence is the only accomplice that has been confirmed in this particular crime. This is echoes in communities, and some echoes never fade. If you believe you have information regarding the death of Edward J. Steinbach or other major cold cases that occurred in Colorado, please reach out to the Colorado Bureau of Investigations at the numbers listed here. I will also post them down below. And as always, thanks for joining us. And if you enjoyed these episodes, please like and subscribe so the YouTube algorithm is able to get this content out to more viewers who enjoy mysteries and true crime.